Hey everybody, welcome back to the Will of the Maker. This is part 2 of the child's bed build. In this video we will be finishing up the build and setting it up in this room. We left off last time with the 2 A-frames and the mattress frame put together. If you haven't seen part 1 of this build, make sure you check that out so you know how we got here. With that being said, let's get started with part 2. I start off by sanding smooth the pocket hole plugs of the A-frames. This will allow the A-frames to sit nice and flush on the end of the mattress frame. After that was done, I started to place the A-frames centered on the mattress frame. This will help me figure out where to put the threaded inserts that will ultimately hold the bed together. It was at this point that I noticed quite a large gap on one of the sides. This was due to one of the 2x4s having a lot more twisting than I had originally seen. So I got the other side mounted and checked that to make sure that was okay. Luckily, it looks pretty good. Now all I had to do is fix the first one. So I took off the A-frame and started sanding. Fixing this basically involved several cycles of sand, check, remove, sand, check, remove, sand, check, until it looked good. This took a while and could have been prevented with a planer, but I don't have one, so I just had to make do. But in the end, it looks much better now. At this point, I think it would be good to explain how this works. In the animation, the A-frame is in green and the mattress frame is in blue. Notice how there is a green A-frame part that sits nestled in the mattress frame. This is what I mean by the alignment board. It will be a glued member of the A-frame that has threaded inserts in it. During bed assembly, this will both align and join the pieces together. This should become more clear later on. The next step is to mark where the threaded inserts will go. I'm doing 3 screws per side. I removed the A-frame and pre-drilled the holes with a very small drill bit that was long enough to go through the top board and into the lower board. Using these holes, I countersunk the mattress frame holes with a Forstner bit. I use a Forstner bit because the screws I'm using are panhead screws which have a flat bottom. I then dropped the lower alignment board and drilled the clearance holes of the mattress frames, then sanded away any blow through. After that, I drilled the holes for the threaded inserts on the alignment board. I put the bit up against the board to see about 3/4 of the way down, and marked the depth with tape. Then, using a larger drill bit, I countersunk these holes for the threaded inserts top. After these holes were ready, I used the inserts to tap the threads into the wood. This was honestly not needed, and I didn't do this again. I then took them all out to apply glue and put them back in. After cleaning the squeeze out and then letting the glue dry a bit, I screwed the alignment board to the mattress frame. Then I clamped on some offcuts to the bottom of the alignment board to vertically align the A-frame. I spent a bit of time here making sure that the A-frame is properly aligned, both centered about the A-frame and aligning to the side and end boards. Then I clamped everything together. Once that was done, I found the center of the 2x2 part of the mattress frame, measured from the inside of the A-frame. I then transferred this distance to the outside of the A-frame and marked the distance. I repeated this process for finding the heights of the centers of the 2x2 layers of the mattress frame. These marks will be where more screws and inserts connect for final assembly of the bed. I then repeated the same steps as before for locating the holes, pre-drilling into both layers together, countersinking the outer holes, then drilling the through holes of the A-frame. Then I countersinked and drilled the holes for the inserts on the mattress frame. I then added glue and installed the inserts. Next is marking the location of the screws that will permanently attach the alignment board to the A-frame. Once located, I pre-drilled these holes with my drill press, ensuring that they were straight. Then I inserted the screws into the alignment board and reattached it to the mattress frame. I then brushed glue only onto the alignment board. Then I reinstalled the A-frame using the screws with the threaded inserts we just drove in, clamped it all tight, and drove in the screws into the alignment board on the A-frame. Then I took the A-frame off to make sure that no glue seeps into the mattress frame. Next is making the back crossmember. This piece follows the profile of the A-frames, so I need to shape the 2x4 with the table saw. So I set the blade to 67.5 degrees or 22.5 degrees off from 90 and started ripping. I first started one side, cutting halfway up, then I flipped it over to do the other side. Once done, this will form the 135 degree angle and match the profile of the A-frame. I used some 3D printed 90-degree brackets in order to get the cross member placed and aligned to drill the mounting holes. But as you can see, disaster strikes, and the crossbeam fell and cracked. Luckily though, it wasn't too bad, and some glue and tape was all that was needed to fix this. Once that was done, it was time to continue on. This time I was a little bit more prepared and got a third clamp to keep it in place. This worked much better. And here you can see the general profile and how it matches the lines of the A-frame. Once I was pretty happy with that, I started to mark where all the mounting screws and threaded inserts will go. I made dots 3/4 of an inch perpendicular from the seam, marked the bottom of the crossmember, then used a speed square quickly and made connecting lines and marked the center of these lines, and finally drilled the pilot holes and countersunk them. Once these were drilled, I could remove the crossmembers to drill the through holes in the A-frame. Then, once again, went through the process of installing the threaded inserts by gluing and then screwing them in. After the inserts were installed, I put the crossmember back up and properly mounted it with the screws. With that screwed in tight, I measured and cut the final length for the top joist, which sits 1/2 inch into the top of the A-frame. Once that was cut, I rested the joist into the A-frames and marked where the threaded inserts should go. Then, using a speed square, I marked lines 3/4 of an inch from the top point. Where the lines meet is the center of the 2x2 of the top joist. Once again, I went through the process of drilling the holes for the screws and threaded inserts to go into. Once that was done, I mounted the top joist back onto the A-frames and took a minute to look at the progress so far. Construction is almost done at this point, and you can see how all the parts are screwed together. The last parts to be made are the legs of the mattress frame. These were a late addition to the design as I wanted to add some extra support for the mattress, as well as help with assembly. As mentioned in part 1 of the build, the spacing of these should allow for 4 rows of storage containers. So I took some 2x4 cutoffs and cut them to length. After I cut the first one, I used it to set a stop block and cut the rest. Once they were all cut, I lined them up to mark all their centers. These marks will be used for 1-inch diameter screw-in furniture pads that will be able to be fully inserted into the legs. This leaves a 1/4 inch on either side, so being centered is important. I drilled them using the drill press with the Forstner bit to make sure it was nice and straight. Then I bored out the center of the hole a little bit deeper for the threaded inserts and glued all the inserts in. After that, I prepped the legs for installation and went with pocket screws. This is one area where if I were to do it again, I would change and use threaded inserts to make the legs removable. Then I flipped the mattress frame upside down and marked where each leg would be. Then I applied glue, clamped them into place, and screwed them all in, one by one. And then finally I screwed in the furniture pads. Now the mattress frame is a freestanding part. I know, it's pretty amazing. I then rested the A-frames on some sawhorses so I can start installing the furniture pads on them. Of course, going through the process of finding the center, then pre-drilling, boring out the hole with the Forstner bit, and then drilling further down for the threaded insert to go into. Of course, glued that in as well. After that, I reassembled the A-frames to the mattress frame, tightening them with a couple screws just to hold it in place, and put the slats down. Getting the slats centered is always a bit of a push and a pull here and there, so to make it easier during assembly, I took some leftover 2x2 and cut some guides for the slats. 4 of them that will go in each corner of the mattress frame. So after doing some more measuring and making sure the slats were perfectly centered, I locked them down in place, measured where the guides should go, and installed them using some super glue for quick setting and then combined with wood glue for long-term durability. And now construction of the bed is complete, so I sanded everything down to 220 grit off camera and cleaned up all the surfaces with some mineral spirits before applying a few coats of lacquer. A nice, raw, natural look was desired, so this achieved that look pretty well. Once the lacquer was dry, I broke the bed down and transported it to the girls' room, where I started assembling the bed together. It went together pretty well as designed, just had to line up the A-frames to the mattress frame and screw them in. It was pretty simple. If you've made it this far, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like button and leave a comment below. It really helps growing channels out. And don't forget to subscribe while you're at it. After the A-frames were together, I quickly put the top joist in. It went in very easily as it has a place to rest. Then I pre-inserted all the screws for the back cross member, and I used a little bit of help holding that in place to get it installed. And once the screws were all driven in, the bed frame was completely assembled and just needed to put down all the slats. And luckily this was easy with the guides. And just like that, the bed is done. They were very happy with how it turned out, especially the girl it was for. They've been using it for about 6 months now since it was completed, and it's holding up very well, which is good, so it's a nice, sturdy design. I'm going to put together some build plans for this and put them up on Etsy, So if you are interested in those, make sure you're subscribed and I will post when they're ready. So what do you think of the design? We were pretty happy with it, but I would love to hear what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Go on.
Yeah.
Wrong direction, Taco.
Come here.
You were about to be famous.
Come here. Come here. Sit.
Yay!
Sit. Sit. Good boy.
Boy.
Yay! Thanks.
Are there people who like religiously follow you on YouTube and stuff?
No, I'm not.
He's not that big.
Quite that big.
You're not YouTube famous yet?
No.